I'm Thorn Dickinson. This show allows me to talk with Mainers working on the most important clean energy project to ever come to our state. We discuss how this project is providing jobs and other benefits today while creating clean energy for a better tomorrow. Yeah, today we're out on the new part of the corridor, what's called Segment 1. We started on Route 201 north of West Forks, and now we're heading west towards the Canadian border. Adam, maybe you could tell me a little bit more detail about exactly where we are.
Yeah, so we just got onto Judd Road. We're going to be coming up to the crossing here where the new corridor intersects Judd Road here in West Forks or Johnson Mountain Township. So that will be coming right up here in front of us.
And this road here was built for what purpose?
These are all old logging roads. Some of them have been more recently used than others. The one we just got off hasn't been used in years, but this one is also the snowmobile trail and the ATV trail, so it gets much more use during this time of year and during the winter.
Now we're coming up, Adam, I think, to the one of the places where you can actually see the first cutting we're doing.
Yeah, so this is the crossing on Judd Road where the corridor crosses right here in front of us that we're going to come up to and take a look at.
So Adam, when we're looking at this, the orange here line is the edge of the 54
Yeah,
feet.
we can measure that, but that should be 54 feet between those.
Well, first, just let's look out when we look out along the 54, you can exactly see what's going on. So you can see the part that's cut, and then this is from here where we begin the tapered vegetation. And I think you can see the trees that are still here. That are some of the ones that were selectively cut, and then the 54 cleared corridor in the middle.
These markers are the edge of the 54 feet of clearing.
We're now perpendicular to the corridor, and starting here at the edge of the cleared corridor. Yeah, there we go. So actually a little under 54 feet, but essentially 54 feet to here. Again, and this is right out of the DEP order, which talks about the 54 cleared corridor, which is exactly how we describe the project. And then at this point, as Adam has said, is where the tapered vegetation begins. So where are we heading now?
So we're going to head down on Judd Road still, heading back towards Coburn Mountain, but we're going to go up one of the access points that takes us up to the summit of Johnson Mountain, which I think is like 2,400 feet in elevation. So the corridor comes along pretty much halfway up that hill, and it's an area where there's very immature growth, so it's almost difficult on that area to see where they've actually done the cutting already.
So what we have here is the cleared corridor for 54 feet. You can see marked in the two stakes with an orange and white striped tape. And then from that point on is where the tapered vegetation starts. You can see in the foreground that this is an area that must have been cleared in the last 5 to 10 years because the trees really haven't grown up. So there's been no cutting at all in those areas or very limited of the tapered vegetation. And then in the distance, some taller trees in which there were some additional trees taked besides the 54 corridor. But in the long run, these woods are going to grow up along the edges of the cleared corridor to develop that tapered vegetation.
So this is a good example of a culvert that's been here for years and has continued to fail and get pushed out of the ground. We have to use these access roads for all our construction traffic. This is also a shared ATV and a snowmobile trail, so there's huge benefit to those clubs when we come along and replace these culverts and repair these roads, because it's one less thing they need to do on their very small budget. The other thing we've done as part of the project is we've put forth a fund of almost $2 million to replace culverts like this where they connect fisheries, and the fishery might be stranded now because the culvert's been eroded or is in a condition where fish can't pass through it. So it's just another one of those trickle-down benefits from the project that not a lot of people realize, but it does add tremendous value to the area and then also to the resources in the area.
So Adam, what are we looking at here?
So this is another crossing on Judd Road. As we get closer to Coburn Mountain, you can see we've crossed the road. They've cut primarily on both sides of the road. They have left a lot more vegetation here. We don't have any access points off this road, and most of this vegetation is below the required height for the scrub shrub and for the tapered, so that's why it's been left. So, and eventually, I mean, this gives you a good idea of what this corridor is going to look like once construction's complete, because vegetation like this is going to be allowed to grow back up to these heights in the corridor after construction.
This is all, the reason why this is cut is because of prior cuts that have been done here.
Yep.
So in a sense, we'll be protecting this wedge by allowing these trees to recover and grow back.
Correct.
During the period of the time of the project.
So we're in Bradstreet Township.
Okay.
We just stumbled upon some of the hand felling crews that are working out here. They've worked their way from the west side of 201 down across Spencer Road, and they're heading towards the border right now.
And maybe we use that as an opportunity just to reflect on the whole DEP process. Let's go right to the bat restriction. Talk a little bit with the fact that we had known about that. And
yeah, so I mean the restriction on the cutting for the months of June and July with the long-eared bats, it's something we've known about even before we had submitted our permits. That's a long-standing restriction with both the Army Corps and the DEP for any work that you do during those times of year, especially cutting. So we've been planning our work and our sequence of construction around that restriction since the very beginning. So this June 1st stoppage of clearing is no surprise to us. We have a plan to process the timber we've cut and continue setting poles during this 2 months of no clearing.
yeah, and I think the other thing that's interesting is for this part of the corridor where we are, that protection's in place. But for other areas, because it is a federal restriction, it's a federal guideline, not a state one, the property owners that own the land around here that are logging could still continue to cut in June and July.
Yeah.
We're kind of in a sense going above and beyond the requirements here in the state to provide these additional protection because of the federal approval.
I mean, across the project, this is just the pamphlet that we use. We have 25 different flagging conventions on the project that depict different resources when you're out in the field. And with each one of these resources come different restrictions that we have to adhere to and follow during the construction process for the corridor. So it's every one of the guys in the field carry one of these with them so that they can identify the resource and know what their means and methods are during that time in that resource.
Maybe just talk a little bit about, for people that aren't aware, all these guidelines exist. How can they feel comfortable that they're actually being followed?
Yeah, so as part of the project, we're required by the DEP and the Army Corps to have a third-party inspector out here following the crews and making sure we're adhering to our permit requirements. The third-party inspectors are out here on their own time, well, not their own time, but it's not scheduled visits. They could stop out at any time during the week. And they meet up with our own environmental inspectors, and they inspect the work. And they issue a weekly report that goes to the DEP and to the Army Corps, and it lists in there if we've had any potential nonconformities or potential permit violations. And to date, we've been working for almost 5 months, and we have 0 nonconformities and noncompliances. So it's something that everybody on the project strives for. Just like safety, environmental is just as important to everybody working out here.
It was a great day in the northern section of the project. We had an opportunity to see some of the progress that's done. We're also able to see how all the environmental controls that are in place and how we're executing on them. It was a good day to be out there. Incredibly proud about how hard our crews are working to progress on this important project, but also to work really hard to honor all the commitments we've made to all the regulatory agencies and the people here in Maine.